Have you ever found yourself trying to solve a problem, feeling extremely confident that you can solve the problem just because of the fact that you've solved similar problems in the past? But as you dive in, you realize the problem isn't that similar at all. And there were a lot of nuances that you missed out on just because of the fact that you rushed into solving the problem without understanding the problem. This is you reasoning by analogy, in which you take inspiration from similar examples or approaches that other people have used to solve similar problems. This is not the best way to think about problem solving. In fact, we as humans, we use this a lot more than we think because it's much easier. In this video, we're going to learn a much powerful approach to problem solving, thinking by first principles. You know what Elon Musk, Charlie Munger, Richard Feynman, and Aristotle all have in common? They're all first principles thinkers. So let's learn how the greats think. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Raheel. I'm an entrepreneur and a product leader currently living and working in Dubai. In this video, we learn about thinking from first principles and how we can leverage it to supercharge the way we solve problems. The idea behind first principles is actually pretty simple. You break down complicated problems into fundamental building blocks and then you reason your way up. The goal is to identify what is something that I know 100% to be true about the problem that I'm solving and reduce your reliance on assumptions because assumptions can be wrong. So the goal is actually pretty simple. Identify core truths about the problem that you're solving and then reason your way up. Here's a video of Elon Musk explaining first principles with an example.
And for batteries, they would say, oh, it's going to cost, historically it's cost $600 per kilowatt hour, and so it's not going to be much better than that in the future. And you say, no, okay, well, what are the batteries made of? So first principles would be to say, okay, what are the material constituents of the batteries? Mm-hmm. What is the spot market value of the material constituents? So you can say, okay, it's got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, and some polymers for separation, and a steel can. So break that down on a material basis and say, okay, what if we bought that in the London Metal Exchange, what would each of those things cost? Like, oh, geez, it's like $80 per kilowatt hour. Mm-hmm. So clearly, you just need to think of clever ways to take those materials and combine them into the shape of a battery cell, and you can have batteries that are much, much cheaper than anyone realizes.
Now here's another example. Let's compare a chef and a cook. A chef is kind of like a magician. They understand ingredients, they understand how flavors work. If you give them raw ingredients and ask them to create a dish without a recipe, they'll be able to come up with a mouth-watering masterpiece. And the reason for that is pretty simple. They understand why certain flavors work together and why others don't. On the other hand, you have a cook. They can whip something tasty, but only if you give them a recipe. You give them some sort of raw ingredients and tell them to come up with a new dish, they'll struggle. Even if they come up with something new, it will be incremental and it will be a derivation of the recipes that they already know. So what exactly is the biggest difference? The difference lies in the understanding of how things work. The chef really knows why adding one extra pinch of salt might make a dish taste better. The cook, if you take the recipes away, they'll struggle to create something new. So here's a question for you guys. Who would you rather be in life? A chef or a cook? I think the answer is pretty obvious. So now let's talk about how we can use first principles in our daily lives. I use two basic methods to think from first principles. Number one is the Socratic questioning, and number two is 5 whys. So Socratic questioning is all about trying to have a deeper understanding of the problem and uncover the beliefs by asking open-ended questions. So instead of asking a yes/no question, I'll ask an open-ended question that, why do you believe this? What could happen if we do this? And it's all about coming to a similar understanding. So if there's some thing that I would like to clarify, for example, what do you mean by success in this scenario? If you talk about failure, are we talking about the same definition of failure? So arriving at that one point is extremely critical. Then everyone has assumptions, so you have to challenge those assumptions. Why do you believe that to be true? Do you have hard data or evidence to support your claims? Asking questions like these will really allow the other person to think deeper about the problem. Then you can also think about alternative problems. What if we tackle the problem from route A versus route B? What are the advantages and the disadvantages? Do we have a much better understanding of the problem if we go down route A versus route B? The end goal is to really understand deeply the problem that you're trying to solve, and having these open-ended discussions allow you to do that. The second approach is the 5 whys approach, which is literally how it sounds. You just have to ask why 5 times. So for example, let's say your car won't start. You can ask, why is the car not starting? The answer could be the battery is dead. Then you can say, why is the battery dead? The answer could be the alternator is not charging the battery. Then the question is, why isn't it charging the battery? The answer might be because the alternator belt is broken. Now the question is, why is it broken? And the answer might be because the alternator belt is old and we forgot to replace it. So after asking why 5 times, you came to a conclusion that, the belt was old and was not replaced in time, because of which other issues were caused, and eventually my car won't start. So by asking open-ended questions, you get a deep understanding, and by probing in, by asking why multiple times, you'll most probably uncover the root cause of the problem that you're trying to solve. At the end of the day, the goal is pretty simple. Have a deeper understanding of the problem so that when you go to solve it, you have the fundamental building blocks that you know are 100% true, so that the solution is 100% true as well. So what's the big takeaway here? It's about thinking differently, and instead of copying ideas and taking inspiration on what worked in the past, reason and think from the grounds up, just like Elon Musk does. Break difficult problems into building blocks, question everything, and try to get to the core of what's true. Use Socratic questioning and 5 whys to dive deeper into problems and find real solutions. You have to remember that understanding why things work is critical to solving difficult problems and creating valuable solutions. Whether you're creating a new startup or you're tackling life's challenges, embrace first principles thinking, and you'll find yourself on the path to deeper understanding and real innovation. Thank you, and good luck.